Okay, I just want to start by saying, so obviously, thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. Um, I suppose the first place to start is how did you get started? How did George come to be?
Um, I'm an actor as well, and I only ever played male roles, or like Viola or Rosalind, females who dressed as males all the way through, and I found a lot of freedom in playing those roles for reasons that are obvious now, but I had never heard of drag kings. I didn't know they existed, and I wasn't really interested in drag queens. Or I am now, obviously, but the
Yeah.
ones I'd seen, um, I hadn't seen any drag that really piqued my interest. And then I went to a festival and saw PEX, the amazing drag king collective led by Days Hale and John Travolta, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? This is wild. Um, and straight away did loads of research into it and signed up for Soho Theatre's Cabaret and Drag Lab, and yeah, it's just been that. That really wasn't very long ago. That was, well, that a year and a half ago. Really, I've only been doing drag properly for about just over a year.
Hmm. And obviously, I've learned about you through Richard Energy, the performance at Pride event I went to a
Oh.
few years ago. And obviously, that's how I sort of discovered you. And obviously, the art form of sort of drag kings is something that's not doesn't get as much media attention as drag queens do at the moment. Obviously, we've seen the rise of sort of drag race, and obviously recently we did have that moment with Victoria Scone brought drag king to the runway, which was the first time it was done. Um, but it's not. It doesn't get the exposure that the Queen counterpart does. So, what can someone expect then from a drag king show as opposed to a drag queen show?
I mean, it totally depends on the drag
Yeah,
king. That's the absolute beautiful thing about drag that I've discovered, is that it's so diverse, and everyone really brings their own personality and their own ideas and their own experiences to it. So it totally depends on which drag king you're looking at. But I would say, high camp, as you would expect from any drag performer. But from what I don't really want to talk too much about like the differences between kings and queens, because there's no
yeah,
such thing as
okay.
like a drag queen or a drag king. And it's such a diverse
Yeah,
range of
okay.
things in terms of like, certainly my work and a lot of the drag
Mhm.
kings I know do very different stuff from like what you would see on RuPaul.
Yeah.
It's a lot less about like turning a look or passing, or
Mhm.
choreography that you might find in a music video, which is
Yeah.
like incredible high skill stuff.
Yeah.
Um, it's a lot more. I know a lot of kings that do lots more like sort of political, concept driven work. Um, Weird. It's like a weird playground for
Hmm.
ideas, basically, is the best way I can describe
Well,
it.
focusing on George specifically, then what can people expect from a By Curious George show?
um, so George is all about animals and nature, and he's kind of like a sort of gay utopian version of David Attenborough. He's very nerdy. He's very sweet. He's sort of quite unaware of how funny he can be. Um, he takes it all very seriously, and he'll be talking about the most absurd thing as if it's just normal. Um, yeah, it's silly. Silly is the main thing. Playful. I like to talk about quite important, serious things in a really playful way. Because I think as queer people, we have enough trauma.
Yeah.
we don't need we don't need to have more in our free time. And there's something really liberating about talking that trauma through in queer spaces, but doing it in a joyful, playful way is what I like to do.
Totally. So for those who haven't obviously clocked the obvious pun, By Curious George comes from Curious George.
Yeah.
So how did you decide on that name? Why did you why?
Um, it wasn't ever actually going to be my name. I didn't think it was going to stick. I did so at Soho Drag Lab. We had to do one
Hmm.
number as like a showcase at the end of it, and for that number, I was doing a number about lesbian Japanese macaque.
Okay.
Um, with George Michael, Monkey, the song Monkey, and it was very silly. About lesbian Japanese macaques, which is true. There are very high rate of lesbianism in Japanese macaques. um, and we were at the pub, me and the people who are now my King Collective and my drag family. But we'd only known each other about 4 weeks at that point. We're having a drink at the pub and all trying to come up with our names and getting a bit tipsy and just throwing silly things out. And then by Curious George was one of the silly things that came out because I was doing a monkey specific number. And I thought that it wouldn't stick because it only worked for the monkey specific number, but then obviously that's not true, and now I'm really glad it's worked, and George has actually become like my chosen name. So it's hilarious how like you'll go from making a drunk joke at the pub to suddenly like your whole life revolves around this name.
So we've talked about what to expect from a George show in general, but you obviously have Queer Planet coming out. What is
Yes.
Queer Planet? What is it about?
Yes, absolutely. So Queer Planet is a parody of, but also a homage to nature documentaries, the beloved British ones, obviously mainly like David Attenborough is the main cultural reference. It's asking the audience to just think about the way that we view the world that we live in and our relationship to it and animals, and to stop viewing everything through this heteronormative lens, because science has been viewing everything through a heteronormative lens forever. And it's just questioning that and looking at some of the other lenses we might want to view animals through. And it's full of weird, wacky facts about queerness in nature. There's some moments where I become some of the animals. It's very camp and silly. And I've got some amazing guest performers lined up. Richard Energy is actually involved. I actually haven't even announced it yet, so I don't know if I should say that. It's my show, I can say what I like. Richard's going to be there. Love Richard. Can't wait. It's camp, it's silly, it's fun. And I hope it's empowering and that people will feel a little less. I just want to I feel like the word natural has been weaponized against queer people for so long, and I want us to reclaim it and take it back.
And still through that sort of, like you said earlier, about talking about serious issues, but through sort of the lens of silliness.
Yeah.
And queer animals, to challenge these sort of common heteronormative ideas is obviously really on brand.
Yes. Well, you can't talk about how animals have sex whilst taking yourself seriously. Like, that's not allowed.
So you recently had your work in progress show, I believe?
Yeah, yesterday.
How did that go?
It was good. I have a show. Unfortunately, I have tonsillitis, so it was not as good as I was hoping, only because I couldn't really speak. But no, it went really well. I know exactly what I want to tweak and change. Some of it was the first time it had left my bedroom, so it's nice to put something that you're like, is this just a crazy madness that I've and put it on a stage, and it does get the response you want. It's a lovely feeling. My parents were there, which was very sweet. There's something very strange about watching your parents order a drink from the Glory. Unnerving. The people in the Glory know me too well for that. But yeah, it was great. I'm really pleased. It felt like a landmark moment. I've been working on the show for a long time, and it's nice to know that it exists.
For those who aren't familiar, a work in progress show is sort of the early stages of a production.
Yes. And I've asked, I don't have a director because I didn't get any funding, so I can't pay anyone. So I'm kind of directing it through asking people for feedback, and that was a really good opportunity for that.
And so obviously the audience reactions and sort of responses then inform how the show evolves, I suppose. And
then I bug all my friends for weeks afterwards saying, no, give me more ideas. I'm just going to plug my charger in, sorry.
No problem.
I'm on low battery.
So I suppose even if you have seen the work in progress show, it'll be quite
Oh, it's going to
different
be
from the
so
real.
different. Yeah, it's going to be so different. Um, yeah, I was going through today and making a list of all the things I'm going to change, and it's going to be very, very different.
So how does that sort of show making, production making process work for you? How did you come up with that in the first place?
um, I mean, a work in progress. I think it's a very normal thing in the comedy
Yeah.
world. Um, and yeah, as soon as I didn't get my Arts Council money, I thought, okay, right, so I don't have a director. Obviously, I can't do a whole show just from my own point of view. I need to get some outside eyes on it, especially if I'm going to be speaking not for my community, but
Yeah.
speaking about queerness in front of a not necessarily entirely queer audience. I was 100% certain that I wanted to get some other queer perspectives in there.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I thought, well, the best way to sort of crowdsource that feedback would be to do a work in progress, because otherwise, literally everything happens in this bedroom. Like, this is my rehearsal space. As you can see, it's not enormous.
But this has
um,
been an odd sort of throwback to sort of COVID and doing all that stuff during COVID. It must have been kind of weird to go back to that sort of stage.
yeah.
So moving on then from your work in progress, obviously it's the real show will be coming soon. Where can people find tickets? What are the dates? Where can
Oh,
we
look
find the
at this!
info?
I've got my flyer right here, but it'll all be backwards, won't it? So, I mean, you can see that it's Vault Festival. It opens on the 24th of February, and then there's another on the 25th of February. That's the Friday and Saturday,
Mhm.
and then the same again the next weekend. They're quite late shows, so which is fun because it means you can come. The Vaults is a beautiful space. There's loads of bars. Come see another show, have a pint. Mine show is at 9:50 p.m. on the
Okay,
24th and 10:20 p.m. on the 25th, and then exactly the same the next weekend. So that's the 3rd and 4th of March. So a fun night out with your mates, I would say, is the best way to do it.
when you said that there's other shows, is it kind of a festival? Is there other?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Vaults is like, it's a huge festival. There's like, I don't even know how many shows a day. There's like, I couldn't tell, like maybe 30. There's loads of different spaces. They're all in one place. They go all day, every day except Monday.
Mhm.
So yeah, check it out. There's loads of great stuff going on. Lots of queer theatre, lots of drag.
Fantastic. And so I suppose sort of the final question is where can people stay up to date with you and sort of follow your career? So
Yeah, I put everything on Instagram. It's at by.curious.george underscore drag. But if you search by Curious George, I don't think there's that many of us. I'm the one with a little moustache drawn on with eyeliner.
and obviously it goes without saying, obviously to support drag kings as
Oh
equally,
yeah.
drag king shows are, if
For
not,
your own, for not yours, but like for everyone, for one's own good as well, because like you're missing out. They're
yeah,
amazing.
it's that whole side that is just obviously not getting the representation it deserves. And I will say from the drag king shows that I've seen, they have been, you know, as good as or even better than the queens I've seen. So obviously not
Yeah.
just your show, but obviously we're here to promote your show, but
Oh
local
yeah, no,
kings.
all kings, all kings. I'm also a member of a collective called Gaggle.
Okay.
So if people want to give them a follow, that's at Gaggle Drag, and we've got some exciting stuff coming up too. And that's 4 amazing kings in one go. So you can't go wrong.
Right, so that's all the questions I have. So I want to end the way I started by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me.
Oh
I
no,
will
thank you, Rhys. Thank
There's
you.
no problem at all. I'll put all the links to your social media, the Vault Festival, in the description so people can just scroll down and click away. But yes, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Rhys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.